Strings have a variety of built-in methods, and we have to be a little bit careful with how they're used. So in this program, we're going to see several different kinds and how they function. So the first one, we're going to need a couple elements for just to take a look. So we're going to have a character named C and a string named S. Because this is a trial and most of it is just going to be nonsense, we're just going to use one letter abbreviation so that we know what kind of variables things are. So we'll have our string get the value of hello world. Just something really simple to get started. So the way this is stored is hello world, and this is going to be important, has the H stored in position 0, the E is in 1, the L's are in 2 and 3, and the O is in 4. So that's just to kind of get it stored in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the important thing here is that the last position is 10, but this is a string that has 11 characters in it. That's going to come up time and time again. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the character become one of the characters from within this. So we're going to use a method, and it's the only one that really has a char value to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the string. We put a dot referencing that we are going to be accessing something within the string itself or within the string library. And we're going to use charat2. And then what we're going to do is we will print out, so system.out.println C, just to see what it gives us. So if I run this, what we get is the L. So let's see if that made sense. So C is in position 2, so the character is pulled from the string in position 2. So that's 0, 1 is the E, 2 is the first L. So that's important here. So charat here, it accepts an integer parameter. So that's where the number here is, and returns the char at that address. So the very important thing here is that this has a type char. So it's going to act like a char. So imagine that we wanted to do something like we want to put whatever this L at the very end. So it'll say hello world. So in a previous video we looked at concat, and then we're going to put a C here, and I'll run this, and we're going to find that it will say error, incompatible types, char cannot be converted to string, because just like this one receives an integer, concat needs to receive a string. You can't throw a char at the end of the string using concat. So we are going to turn that into a comment here because we don't want to do that. So concat receives a string parameter, and it returns the result of the string with whatever that second one is stuck on the end. So returns the concatenated string. And this is what type it has. So it has the type string. So what can we do with the fact that we have a char? Well, because it's a pretty basic variable type, we can use it to do something like this. So like if C equals A or C equals E, or C equals I, or C equals, oh, by the way, I'm going through all the vowels. C equals U, or C equals Y, whoops, Y, then we'll print out it's a vowel. It's a vowel. And then otherwise, we're going to print out it's a consonant. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it's a consonant, and then it will display the letter. So taking a look at that example, it's a consonant and then L. Now, if we changed this to 1, actually, let's grab the O. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. We can run this. It will now say it is a vowel. Now, here's one other situation that you will encounter. This has a length of 11, and what if we put in 42? So what is the character that is at 42? So if I run this, you are going to encounter this. Exception in thread main, it says string index out of bounds exception. This is going to happen a ton when you're first learning how to program with strings, is we've just referenced a position that is outside the length of the string. So there is no position 42, so you always get this error. It's a very common one, but look for string index out of bounds exception, and then you can do the work to try and figure out what the problem was. So I'm going to revert that to being position 4, and that's enough for charat, well, and concat. So let's put a little divider here. This is part 2 of the program. Now we're going to do something with an integer here. And what I want to do is I want to do I gets the value of s dot index of, and then I'm going to put in L as a string. And we're going to print this out, system.out.println, the first L is in position, and then we'll add on I. So what index of, and the first thing is important here. The first L is in position 2, which is correct. So what index of it does is it's going to find the first place that the L appears. It ignores the second place, although there are other ways to kind of deal with that later on. So this one here, we're going to use so much. So it accepts a string parameter, and it returns an integer. We'll say location. Okay, so just like we messed up the thing before by putting the position out of range, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here underneath, but we're going to put in a T, which does not show up in hello world. So we're going to say the first T is in position, and let's see what it's going to do. In your head, you can make a prediction about what you think is going to happen. So we're going to run this, and here's our answer. The first T is in position, -1. -1 is index of's code for it is nowhere in there. Because you can't have the index of any position in a string be negative. It starts at 0 and it only counts up. So this is very important. Returns a -1 if not present. And there are actually a bunch of applications where the number -1 helps us solve a few problems, and we'll encounter some of those later. So this one receives a string, and it acts like an integer. So it returns an integer value. Now we'll do one more here. And this is one that deals with a Boolean. And if you have forgotten, a Boolean has either the value true or false. It only has one of those two. So we're going to have our Boolean get the value of s dot equals, and I'm going to put in hello world, but I'm going to put it all in lowercase letters. And then we'll see what we get. So we're going to say if b is true, then we'll put out system.out.println 1. It's the same. The 1 is because we're going to do another version of this in just a second. Okay, and then otherwise, else if b equals false, then we're going to kind of do the same thing. It's different. There we go. So it'll be either the same or it'll be different. So we'll run this. And let's see what it does. It says it's different. So equals, kind of important here. So it receives a string parameter, returns a Boolean result, and it is case sensitive. There we go. Which means that a capital H is not the same as a lowercase h. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, and we're going to check to see if this one will work. So b is going to get the value of equals, ignore case hello world. So there's this separate version of it that is super useful that will do the same thing, except it will ignore whether something is capital or lowercase. So it becomes non-case sensitive. The other thing that you can do here is b itself will be true or false. So you don't actually have to check to see if true is equal to true. We can do this. We can say if b, and b will be equal to either true or false. Now the negative version of this, if we removed that, we would say if not b, which means false. So if b, or if b is true, then we'll say it's the same. If b is false or not b, it's different. So if we run that, oh, what have I done? Yeah, I left off the root here. S dot, it didn't know which string it was looking in. Okay, so the first one says it's different. The second one says it's the same. Now, the only other thing that I want to do in this program, just to show you some of the basics, is s dot to lower case. And then what I want to do is I want to print system.out.println s. There we go. So remember how S used to have a capital H and a capital W. So let's run this, and then we'll see what it does. You can predict what you think is going to happen. And take a look at this. Is that the lowercase version of it? No, it isn't. So what you have to know is with a lot of these, so 2 lowercase doesn't change the root string. It returns a lowercase version of it. Okay, so what do we do with that? Imagine that we wanted to make a string lowercase. So because this returns a string but doesn't actually change the string to S, what we can do is we can do it with this line of code. Do a little copy paste. S gets the value of its lowercase version. So it creates and returns the lowercase version here and then stores it in S, and then when we print it, we will get the lowercase version of it. There we go. Oh, a little bit of a lag here. There we go. So we get the regular version and then we get the lowercase. So this is a good reference. What we have to know is that a lot of the string methods, and there's lots of them, they all accept different values. So this is one that accepts an integer, this is a string, this is a string, and this receives nothing because it doesn't need any information, and they all return different kinds of information. This is a char, concat does a string, index of gives us an integer, equals gives us a boolean, and 2 lowercase gives us a string. So you have to know like what's going into the method and what's going out so you can both set it up and use it properly in whatever application you're trying to solve.